Imagine you love Ace Combat and the goofy anime reality it takes place in, like me. And then imagine that between 2007 and 2019, Project Aces only released Ace Combat games on handheld platforms, or spin offs that take place on our regular sucky Earth, or punishingly, free to play bullshit, which also takes place on our regular sucky Earth. Imagine a decade of that. And then, one day, somebody deep within the bowels of the Bandai Namco anime money printing facility thought to themselves, fuck, I think we accidentally left Project Ace's cage open 10 years ago, and they've been slowly losing their goddamn minds making goofy spin off games and burrowing into the walls. After wrangling the team and getting Kazutoki Kono his feeling good medication, they decided to throw together a game that wasn't a 3DS exclusive or free to play nightmare. And that game is Ace Combat 7. Ace Combat 7 is the latest installment of the Ace Combat series, a series of video games that have you perform Ace Combat. It is confusing, oddly paced, bafflingly written, and very, very similar to other games in the franchise. But I'm pretty sure I love it anyway. So let's get into it. Most of the main Ace Combat series takes place on an alternate Earth, inexplicably named Strange Real. This time, the dickhead nation of Erusia has suddenly attacked the America analog nation of Osea using incredibly advanced technology like AI drones, IFF spoofing, fully autonomous aircraft, and giant doomsday machines carrying long-range cruise missiles. If some of those things sound pretty familiar, then you've gleaned the secret of the Ace Combat franchise. Every new game is basically a word jumble of the plot points and challenges of previous Ace Combat games, with a sprinkling of new novel technology. This time around, the new novel technology was given to Erusia by the Balkans, who are, historically, a nation of fuckface Nazis who like to fail at wars and instead commit war crimes. For those unfamiliar with Belka, it is a small country just northeast of Osea. After getting stomped on in a couple major historical conflicts, they decided that enough was enough and rapidly built up their industrial sector, creating technology with which to wreak bloody vengeance on their uppity neighbors. That's right, they're a Germany metaphor. Despite their technological and industrial prowess, their tiny, shitty country has little in the way of natural resources, so they have to do some good old imperialism in order to collect the bone dust and swamp gas necessary to thrive. When they tried that shit on Osea, they were pushed back into their own territory so quickly they had to detonate nuclear devices on their own soil to halt the Osean advance. Ever since, they've been trying to fuck with Osea and the rest of the world. So, they hand out their super tech to whatever villain of the week promises to cause the biggest ruckus. And this week, it's Erusia's turn. The reason that Erusians are renowned dickheads in Ace Combat is because Erusia was greatly affected by the Ulysses Crisis, an incident when planet killer asteroid Ulysses 1994 XF04 was detected and intercepted by railgun before it impacted Earth. Instead of being cleansed of all life, Strange Real was instead shotgunned with asteroid bits. And a lot of those bits hit Erusia, who desperately began attacking their neighbors to consolidate power, gain resources, facilitate recovery, and mitigate the massive refugee crisis that had overwhelmed them. Those were the events of Ace Combat 4, as you beat the Erusians back into their smoldering crater of a country. However, the Erusian situation has not really improved, so they're giving it another go. This time, Erusia has its sights set on the International Space Elevator, or Lighthouse, a massive structure built to provide power and efficient orbital transport to aid in the recovery from the Ulysses crisis. Erusia aims to capture it and take revenge on Osea for the unspeakable insult of daring to help them. To that end, they launch a surprise attack on Osea, using fancy technology and big flying machines with missiles. It's pretty much just Ace Combat 4 and 6 smashed together. But this time, the Belkans have provided advanced AI and drone technology, leading to the blatant ethical message of the game: autonomous war machines are not cool. Using a goofy helmet, the Erusians seek to capture the flight data of the greatest pilot to ever fly in order to program a legion of unstoppable drones that will fight on perpetually. These overwrought plot points aside, Ace Combat 7 is a very fun game, with varied missions and environments, tons of plane customization, and wonderful replayability. The controls are snappy and responsive, and the flight mechanics are updated for the 21st century. Your plane ices up in clouds, it's blown around by crosswinds, you can even be struck by lightning. Which isn't really a big deal, it's just God's flashbang. But it feels fast and smooth and wonderful to blast these goddamn Erusians and their Belkan bullshit witchcraft into smoke. The drones are interesting to fight and provide a welcome break from more standard fighter AI. The set pieces are cool, whether it's watching your friends get blown up by the overhyped antagonist, or using the earth-saving railguns to skewer a giant aerial weapons platform. Everything feels epic and overdramatic. Side note, when you use the railgun to blow up the Arsenal bird, some complications arise that lead to the ground team aiming it manually, which I do not recommend at all.
Don't give up yet, Major. We still have sensors. Arise. The oldest sensors in the book.
That is why, Serviceman Chung, we do not eyeball it. This is a weapon of mass destruction.
The game is not without its problems, however. Unlike previous installments, I didn't really care about anyone in the world around me, aside from the main antagonist, the aforementioned greatest pilot to ever live, who we will call Airplane Big Boss. You spend the game switching between squadrons so frequently that you never really get a feel for the people around you. You have a sassy guy who is sometimes your wingman, but sometimes not. You have a lady. She's alright. You have a third guy who doesn't say a lot. And you have some guy called Jaeger who won't shut up about his kid. He talks about his stupid goddamn kid so much in the last 20 minutes of the game that you just expect him to die at any moment. But then he doesn't. He doesn't even have the decency to die. As for you, you play as a member of the International Peacekeeping Squadron for 3 missions. Then you get framed for murder and become a prisoner who is forced to fly planes for Osea. I have heard of prisoners being forced to fight in history, but have they ever had convict fighter pilots before? That seems ridiculous. Then, after that, you get cleared of the murder and put in charge of your own squadron. But then your squadron gets fucked up and they combine you with another squadron. Then at the end, some guys from the other side join a giant coalition squadron in an attempt to retake the elevator and stop the threat of autonomous warfare. These rapid shifts in your team composition create a bit of a disconnect between the player and their space in the world, their role in the narrative. The delivery is very stilted, and I felt very isolated from the grand war effort that was supposed to be taking place. You spend a lot of the game surrounded by characters who you aren't supposed to like, so you don't. Then you end up fighting for the side that uses convict soldiers, like they're supposed to be the cool ones. There aren't many special or heroic moments in the game, and there aren't really people to be heroic for. Your ground units, civilian cutscene denizens, or really any representation of Allied efforts are either so stilted or so irrelevant that it's not worth paying attention to them. The only non-fighter pilot character I can clearly picture in my head is the Princess of Erusia, but that's just because she has a JPEG dog. In a game where they made creepy anime-proportioned 3D models for everyone else, They just threw a fucking JPEG dog in there like I wasn't gonna notice. The game does make up for these shortcomings with the sheer delight of the flying mechanics, its diverse mission structure, and its length, which seems to shake out a few hours longer than Ace Combat 6. I do still miss the ally systems in AC6, which you could use to call for support from friendly forces. This game does not care about them. You're a cool guy who is the best goddamn pilot, and your job is to shoot down the bad guy who also claims to be the best goddamn pilot, and you're not gonna stand for that shit. So get out there and blow him up. Go play Ace Combat 7. Go play all the main Ace Combat games. Hear the missile alert sound in your waking dreams. Leave messages on the answering service of Bandai Namco demanding more anime plain nonsense. Shriek wildly when they question you. I'll see you all in 15 years when Ace Combat 8 comes out.